Hey everybody, it is March 17th. Nearly a year since we've taken the boat to the boat yard for repairs. We still don't have it back. It doesn't seem like they're working on it. Basically, it's become a fixture at the boat yard. Now I understand we're in the middle of COVID, and I understand that we're not able to get as much work done because of this crappy virus. But come on, nearly a year and I don't have my boat back. I never would have thought it. We have less than 6 months before we are leaving for the loop. And our original plans of taking our boat from Sacramento to San Francisco and then down to Ensenada so that we could ship it to Fort Lauderdale just is no longer feasible. So what does that mean? That means we have to start shopping for a boat. We are Matt and Monique, parents to 5 beautiful girls and 1 dashing boy, who are 6 of the most amazing children any parent has been blessed to raise. I grew up cruising the shores of Southern California and introduced my family to this incredible lifestyle, first on the inland waters of Sacramento Delta, then to the San Francisco Bay, and finally into the deep blue waters of the Pacific Ocean. With our first 5 children out of the house and on their own, it's time for us to stretch our legs and embark on an adventurous journey with Morgan and her dog Tito's Martini. Join us as we prepare to leave California to complete America's great loop on the east coast of this great land. Subscribe and participate in the conversation by commenting and sharing our channel. Give my wife encouragement and inspiration to fulfill our goal. But most importantly, don't let her change her mind. All right, now we have to look for a new boat. I love my boat, but it's not going to be ready. So now I'm going to shop for a boat specifically for the loop. What am I going to look at? Well, last week or a couple weeks ago, you heard from Monique and Morgan and their very long list of amenities that they would like to see in our next boat. And most of them sound fantastic. And most of them probably will be in our next boat. But that's really not the way you shop for a boat. What we have to look at is the purpose. And here, we know what the purpose is. It's to do the loop. One of the things that we have to consider in doing the loop is size, depth, and height. So some of the more important things that we have to consider is the draft of the boat. It is stated in charts and in cruising guides that the draft of your boat should be no more than 5 feet. All right, so there are some people that say 6 feet. There are others that say 4. 5 seems to be what is mostly relied on. So we're going to look for a boat that has no more than a 5-foot draft and bridge clearance. There is the lowest fixed bridge on the loop right after Chicago is at a height of 19 feet 7 inches. So I want to shop for a boat that has a bridge clearance of 19 feet 5 inches. And I'd even like it a little bit lower than that, but 2 inches. I'm going to say 2 inches is enough cushion because I'm also understanding that there are times where that clearance can be 20 feet. So I believe 19.7 is the absolute lowest the bridge gets. So for those 3 things, the sky is the limit. We have to look at the purpose again. Are we going to go fast? Are we going to go slow? Do we have to go a long distance without fuel? We know that fuel is not a great concern, provided your boat can go 300 or 250 miles. 300 would give you plenty of a cushion. If you got a diesel engine or diesel engines, 300 miles, that should be easily done. Gas engines are a little bit different. But let's plan on 350 miles worth of range. So when I said that size doesn't matter, bigger boat, little boat doesn't matter, that's not exactly true. In one specific and important case, size does matter because you can't ignore it, and that is the speed of your boat. When we're looking at the hull speed of a boat, that is the speed at which the boat will run at its most efficient. The larger the hull, or the longer the hull, the better the boat, or the faster the boat can run at efficient speed. Smaller hulls, slower speeds. And how can you tell? It's not really that hard. You would take the square root of the water line of the boat, and then take the square root of the water line of the boat, multiply it by 1.35, and you'll get your hull speed. Okay? Let's say it again. To get your hull speed, you take the square root of the length of your hull and multiply it by 1.35. So, for example, if you have a 52-foot boat, you can estimate that the hull length, or the water length, is going to be 48 feet. Take the square root of 48, which is 6.93. And I'm not smart, I just have it written down. And then you multiply it by 1.35. That gives you a hull speed of 9.4 knots. Our boat is 48 feet. The hull is the length of the hull is probably 44 feet. So if I take my trusty little calculator here, and I take, let's see, I take the square root of, let's say 45, and multiply it by 1.35. That gives me a hull speed of 9.06 knots. And guess what? That's where we usually run because the boat really likes it at that speed. Great. 9.9 knots. If you go 9 knots, that's a comfortable speed. You're going fast enough. But what if you have a smaller boat, say a 40-foot boat or a 38-foot boat, and your water line's only 35 feet long? Well, if you take the square root of 35, multiply it by 1.35, your hull speed is 8 knots, which means you lose 1.5 knots, or a whole knot, really, which can be significant. If you got a 70-foot boat, your hull speed is going to be 11 knots. So you can see there is a big difference there. All right. So we're going to look for a boat with a water length or a hull that's anywhere from 48 to 53, 55 feet. Actually, I think that's a comfortable length, big enough for a family to live comfortably on for a year or 2 years. So now that we have the length and we know what the hull speed is, what else do we need to know about a hull? Well, there are 3 different types of hulls that you're going to have to consider. There's the planing hull, there is the semi-displaced hull, and then there's the fully displaced hull. Each of these have certain advantages. Clearly, some people are going to want one over the other, but before you can shop or even look for the boat that you want, you really have to know what the difference is between these 3 hulls. If we look at the planing hull, planing hulls are hulls that bring the boat out of the water to release as much drag from the water as is possible, providing a great deal more speed. And you're going to find these hulls constantly in go-fast boats, such as, I shouldn't say go-fast boats, in boats that go much faster, such as Sea Rays, sport fishers, cruiser yachts have a lot of planing hulls in some bayliners and meridians. The way you can tell what a planing hull is, they will have chines on the bottom of the boat from the bow that run all the way along the bottom to the stern of the boat. And those chines, which look like little shelves, are points at which the boat will lift. The pressure from the water on these steps or on these shelves lift the boat out. Oftentimes, some of these boats will begin to come out of the water even before they hit their hull speed. The unfortunate thing about those situations is they're not going fast enough to plane, but they're not able to stay in the water to take advantage of the hull speed. That means they are plowing. That's when the bow is out of the water and sticking up in the sky. When a boat plows, it creates a huge wake, and it is really at its most inefficient speed. So, for those people that have Sea Rays, you usually like to go fast, and quite frankly, you hear about complaints on the loop by Sea Rays passing at full speed, or even sport fishers. And the reason for that is, if they're not able to go 5 knots, then they have to get out of the water. Because these planing hulls are built for speed, typically they have larger engines and smaller accommodations. They also have smaller fuel tanks because they're expected to get places faster, and so they're not going on long hauls. On the flip side of the planing hull is the fully displaced hull. And the fully displaced hull is a hull that is designed to displace water around the boat. It is not designed to lift the boat out of the water and avoid the drag. In fact, it uses drag to help it go forward. A planing hull displaces. That's exactly what it does, and it will run efficiently all the way to its hull speed. After its hull speed, because it's displacing hull, it doesn't go any faster. It begins to dig into the water and waste fuel. They're typically going to have larger fuel tanks, as in 1,000 to 1,500 gallons. They're going to have large accommodations because the expectation is you're going to spend many days, if not weeks, on the boat. And they're very comfortable boats, but they are limited by the speed. A boat like that can typically go 5,000 nautical miles, but you're going to do it all day long. By the time you get to 5,000 miles, not only are you going to feel old, you will be old. The next boat, or the next style, is the semi-displaced hull. And that's what it sounds like. It actually uses the concept of both the planing hull and the displacement hull. At lower, slower speeds, it displaces the water. On my boat, I have a very rounded semi-displaced hull. And you can see on that hull, it has a sharper entry than a fully displaced hull, but after that it becomes very round and fat like a whale until you get to the aft part, second half of the boat, which is the aft part. It gets flatter, and the keel begins to be the only part that travels along the bottom of the boat. The bottom actually goes up, and that area there, just like a displacement hull, uses the bow wake to help push it forward. Now, with a semi-displaced boat, once that boat goes fast enough to have its bow wake travel behind it, it will then begin to plane. So, with a semi-displaced hull, it displaces water until enough pressure from the engines pushes it beyond its bow wake, and then it begins to plane. This does combine the best of both worlds, the best of the planing and the best of the fully displaced hull. With these boats, you have larger engines, and that sacrifices smaller fuel tanks. The fuel tanks are going to be larger than a planing hull for the most part, because you are expected to go further. The fuel tanks are larger than a planing hull, but smaller than the fully displaced hull. It's going to be considered a coastal cruiser. Longer distances, but you're not going to go to Hawaii and you're not going to go to Europe in it. You are going to be coastal cruising. It does provide greater accommodations, more space, and obviously that's because you're expected to spend more time on them. I think for us, the semi-displaced hull is the hull of choice. It will allow us to travel at displacement speeds or hull speeds at an efficient speed. But if we have to make a bridge opening or a lock before it closes, we can get up on plane and travel faster than a displacement hull. Not as fast as a planing hull. Real world numbers basically are this. A 49-foot DeFever is going to do 9 knots all day long. The slower it goes, the better fuel economy it's going to get. But you can bet 9 knots, that's what you're going to get. If you had a 48-foot Sea Ray with great big 8V92s or 3116 Caterpillars, that boat's going to do 23 knots, 25 knots all day long. You're going to make more bridges with that Sea Ray than you ever would with the DeFever. Now, if you were to use my boat, 48-foot Hatteras with 6 V92s, again, smaller engines, not going to go as fast as the Sea Ray, my boat can get up and do 12 to 16 knots. Not as good as the Sea Ray, but it would help with catching bridges and locks if I had to get out of the water and move faster. That's why I think the semi-displaced hull is the better hull for the loop. I can go fast, or I can choose to run efficiently. So there you go. For our list, it's a semi-displaced hull, and now I need to figure out what style. That's for next time. I'm going to try to keep these as short as possible because I bored the hell out of myself doing this. So that's my take on hull designs, and in consideration of doing the loop, what hull design I think is going to be best for us. That might not be best for you. So you have to look at them and consider for yourself which hull is going to be best for you. If you found this video to be helpful, why don't you share it around? Let other people know it's out there. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to continue watching these, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm not real good right now about getting videos out on a weekly basis. I'm working full-time and we haven't really set off for the loop. And I gotta tell you, the disappointment regarding my boat, it's been a heartbreak for me. But these videos might be getting interesting as we begin searching for our loop boat. Let's see. So, until next time, from this skipper to you, keep your boat afloat. And if it ain't afloat, figure out how to make it float. I'm trying my best. Till next time, take care.